Hi children, it's Grandma Carla with more of Stories of the Pilgrims, and we are reading about the Treaty of Peace. And I'm sorry about the lighting, but I'm in a hotel room and it doesn't have very good lighting, but I am determined to read you a few stories tonight. The next day passed and no Indians came to the village. The day after this was Sunday, and the Pilgrims were always careful to make Sunday a holy day. They met in the common house to sing and pray to God and to listen to Elder Brewster's sermon. When their service was over, they started quietly toward their homes. Before them marched Captain Standish with his gun, ready to give alarm if he saw any danger. Suddenly, 5 great Indians came out of the forest. They wore skins of deerskin, and their faces were streaked with bright-colored paints. In their hair, they wore long eagle feathers, and each man carried a roll of fine furs. "It is Samoset and his friends. That means 5 more hungry men to feed," said Priscilla to Mistress Brewster. "I think we have plenty of food to share with them," answered Mistress Brewster. "We will set the table for them in the common house, and they need not come into our houses at all. It frightens the children to see them looking in at the doors." After the Indians had eaten their dinner, they spread their furs along the table, and then they motioned to bowls and knives and kettles and other things which they wanted in return for their rolls of furs. "No, Samoset, this is Sunday. This is our Lord's Day. Tell your friends we cannot trade with them on the Lord's Day. Come tomorrow, and we will be glad to buy your furs." Samoset could not see why one day was any better than another, but he told his friends what the Pilgrims had said. So the Indians rolled up their furs and without another word walked out of the village. Several days passed and the Indians did not return. The Pilgrims began to wonder if their visitors were angry because they had not taken the furs on Sunday. The men were again in the common house drawing plans for the fort to be built upon the hill, when Francis Billington and Love Brewster rushed into the room. They were pale with fright and out of breath with running. "Indians! Indians!" they gasped. "They were down by the brook gathering willows to make whistles, and we saw at least 100 Indians come out of the woods." But Miles Standish did not wait to hear the end of their story. He ran to the door and looked toward the forest. Yes, the boys were right. There was a huge band of Indians on the hill nearby. They talked together and pointed toward Plymouth village. Quickly, Captain Standish turned and gave his orders. Each man knew just where to stand and what to do in case of an attack. Then Samoset and another Indian left the band and came slowly down into the village. Miles Standish and Edward went forward to meet them. "This is Squanto, friend of English," said Samoset. "You are both welcome in our village," answered Edward Winslow. "We hope you have brought many furs to trade with us today." "No furs," replied Samoset. "Massasoit, the great chief of red men, comes to meet the white chief. Massasoit would be the white chief's brother." When the Pilgrims learned that the king of many tribes waited to see them, they wished to show him honor. Governor Carver prepared some gifts for the chief, and Edward Winslow, wearing his finest armor, went with Squanto to the place where the Indians waited. Massasoit looked like a king as he rested his long bow upon the ground and stood to receive the white man. He was very tall and straight. His garments of deer skin were beautifully trimmed with shells and shining quills, and he wore a band of eagle feathers which reached from the top of his head to the ground. Upon the grass before Massasoit, Edward Winslow spread a red blanket of fine wool, upon which he placed strings of bright beads, a knife, and a long copper chain. When he had slowly and carefully arranged all these things, Winslow arose and said to Massasoit, "My chief sends to you these gifts and invites you to his house. He would be your friend." When Squanto had told Massasoit these words, the chief motioned Winslow to stay there until he returned. Then, taking 20 of his warriors, he went to the village, led by Squanto. Captain Standish, Master Allerton, and 6 other soldiers dressed in their bright armor met Massasoit and his men at the brook and escorted them to the common house. Here a large rug was spread and cushions were laid for the chief and his braves. Soon the sound of drum and fife was heard, and Governor Carver entered, followed by the rest of his little army. Then the meat and the drink were brought, and after the company had eaten together, Governor Carver and Massasoit made a treaty of peace. Massasoit arose and in his own language promised that the Indians would not harm the white man, and if other Indian tribes made war upon Plymouth, Massasoit would help the Pilgrims. He promised that his tribes should not bring their bows and arrows into the white man's settlement. When Samoset had told in English what Massasoit had said, Governor Carver spoke. He said the Pilgrims would not harm the Indians or carry their guns into the Indian villages when they went there to visit. He promised Massasoit that they would always pay the Indians a fair price for the furs and other things that they brought from them. When the governor's words had been told to Massasoit by Squanto, a treaty of peace was signed. The Indian chief could not write, but instead he made a little cross. Massasoit did not understand the signing of the paper. When Indians made a treaty of peace, the 2 chiefs always smoked a peace pipe. So the governor and the chief smoked a great stone peace pipe, which Samoset brought to them. Now are the white men and the red men always brothers, said Samoset. Then Massasoit unrolled the gifts that he had brought to his white brother, Governor Carver. There were the finest of furs, a bow and arrows like his own, and a necklace of bear's teeth. Then Massasoit and his company were ready to return to their camp. Captain Standish and his soldiers escorted them as far as the brook to show them honor. This treaty of peace between the Pilgrims and the Indians was kept for 50 years. In all this time, they did not break their promises to each other. And here we have a picture of the Indians. Let's see if I can show you a little better. There we go. The Indians. And they were standing in front of the little houses here. And see if I can find another one. Here is a picture of Governor Carver and Massasoit, and they were giving each other gifts to show their good intentions. And that is the end of the chapter about the peace treaty. And next time we will read about Squanto. This is Grandma Carla, and I love you.